From enslavement to the present, black families have undergone significant changes throughout American history. Various factors have contributed to this change, such as government policies, social and economic change, and cultural shifts. In this video, we'll take a look at the evolution of the black family in the United States over the past few centuries. Without further ado, let's get started. Enslavement in America lasted over 200 years and caused immeasurable pain and trauma. Enslavers viewed enslaved people as property and controlled every aspect of their lives. They often separated families and dictated relationships and marriages. Slave marriages were dissolved by enslavers on a whim. Despite this, enslaved couples built their marriages on love and commitment, and black wives respected their husbands as the head of the family despite slavery's hindrance. Enslavement dictated black women's status as mothers, their fertility, and the fate of their children. Single-parent families were common, and abroad marriages were encouraged for reproduction and increasing the slave population. Miscegenation, or the mixing of races, was common, and laws against it ensured blacks remained in bondage. Enslavers often had sexual relationships with enslaved people, causing larger miscegenation between white men and black women. Slavery damaged women's roles as wives and mothers, and it destroyed black fathers' confidence in their children's paternity. Despite this, the black family unit persevered and remained resilient in the face of the most oppressive and dehumanizing system in American history. Reconstruction after the Civil War saw great progress in civil rights for African Americans, but the following later period was marked by violence and segregation, greatly affecting black families. Freed people searched for their separated family members through various means, but often had no success. Separated marriages resulted in legal battles over birth parents and custody of children. Black marriage became a moral and Christian responsibility, with mass weddings occurring. The most common family organization was nuclear, with extended family and non-related individuals living in the same household. Most newly freed families were poor, and women managed the household while also working for wages alongside their husbands. Black women often left dysfunctional relationships by divorce or living separately. Despite these challenges, black families persisted and laid the foundation for their resilience and strength. During the Jim Crow era, African Americans faced a system of laws and practices that enforced racial segregation and discrimination, denying them basic rights and freedoms. This period perpetuated racial inequality and violence, greatly impacting black family life for over half a century. African American men were most affected by segregation, which destroyed their dignity. As a result, black families suffered greatly. Most black families had lower incomes and struggled to provide basic necessities for their children, with poor diets and housing. Even while maintaining a patriarchal Christian monogamous structure, black families were often forced to live in slums, and children of middle-class blacks had to grow up in or next to these conditions. The Jim Crow era had a significant impact on African American families, with many struggling to make ends meet and provide basic necessities for their children. The civil rights and black power eras of the 1960s and 70s were pivotal times in American history, as black Americans were fighting for their rights and freedoms. But these times also brought challenges to family structure and stability. In cities, black families were more frequently headed by women than those in the country, and the difference between the white and black proportions of families headed by a woman was greater in the city than in the country. The black male unemployment rate continued to rise during this period. As jobs became more difficult to find, family stability became more difficult to maintain. The proportion of black children born out of wedlock increased rapidly, contributing to the rise of female-headed households. Women on welfare, especially black women, have always been stigmatized, posing a challenge for dialogue during the 1970s. Economic change, the rise of the drug trade in the 70s, and women acquiring more education contributed to the decline of marriage and the rise in poverty and social problems. These societal changes had a profound impact on the black community, leading to a breakdown of the traditional family structure. The past few decades have brought significant changes to the black family. Economic and social factors have contributed to the rise of out-of-wedlock births and single-parent households, while exacerbating issues of poverty and inequality. Out of wedlock black births have increased significantly over the years, with many women unable to find steady work due to welfare reform policies. The poverty rate for black families has remained high, with millions of black people living below the poverty line. These factors have contributed to the rise of single parent households, with many black children growing up without a father figure. These challenges have been compounded by racial antagonisms and misunderstandings, which have often prevented necessary changes from taking place. In spite of these obstacles, black families have shown incredible resilience and continue to adapt to changing circumstances. As we look to the future, it is important to acknowledge these challenges and work towards solutions that will promote the well-being and stability of the black family. Ultimately, it will require a collaborative effort from individuals, families, and communities to build a brighter future.